Breaking news as we come on the air tonight, what we are learning about a horrific mass shooting in British Columbia. The victims found dead inside a school.
We are not in a place now to be able to understand why and what may have motivated this tragedy.
How many are fighting for their lives, and what happened to the shooter? What Mark Carney told Donald Trump in an urgent phone call this morning.
Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge.
And which billionaire lobbied the White House right before Trump's threat?
The only party that benefits from delaying the bridge.
And the haunting new surveillance images in the Nancy Guthrie case. What they can tell us about her disappearance, and how were they retrieved if the doorbell camera wasn't connected to the cloud.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news in northeastern BC tonight, where several people have been killed in a mass shooting at a secondary school in the small town of Tumbler Ridge, shattering the small community of barely 2,400 people. RCMP have confirmed at least 10 people are dead, including the suspected shooter. Tracking the story for us tonight is CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson. And Andrew, just a devastating situation unfolding at this hour. What can you tell us about what happened?
Omar, it is a devastating day in the small northeastern BC town of Tumbler Ridge after violence on a scale that at this point is difficult to grasp.
We are not in a place now to be able to understand why and what may have motivated this tragedy. This was a rapidly evolving and dynamic situation, and the swift cooperation from the school, first responders, and the community played a critical role in our response.
RCMP say they received a report of an active shooter at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School early this afternoon. When police entered the school, they found several victims, along with the suspected shooter, who was dead. In total, 7 people were killed in the violence at the school, plus the shooter. 2 more victims were found dead inside a home. Police say approximately 25 other people are being assessed and triaged at the local medical center with non-life-threatening injuries.
We're still investigating the nature of all those injuries and the weapons that may or may not have been involved. We have the scene secured right now. We have investigators there to try to determine the nature of the extent of the injuries and what weapons may or may not have been involved.
Other students and staff at the school were safely evacuated. People in town were told to stay inside their homes after an emergency alert went out early this afternoon, a lockdown that lasted for more than 4 hours. People in Tumbler Ridge have now been told it is safe to leave their homes. More RCMP are heading to the area. We will share updates as they become available. Omar.
All right, Andrew Johnson on those late-breaking details. Andrew, thank you. And late tonight, Prime Minister Mark Carney posted on X, "I am devastated by today's horrific shootings in Tumbler Ridge, BC. My prayers and deepest condolences are with the families and friends who have lost loved ones to these horrific acts of violence." And we have more breaking news south of the border, where a man has reportedly been detained for questioning in the disappearance of NBC anchor Savannah Guthrie's mother. It comes as the FBI has released images of a potential subject in the investigation. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin.
They are haunting images, the face of a masked armed intruder trying to cover up Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera. The person wears a ski mask and black gloves, carries a backpack, tools, and a gun in the front of his belt. FBI Director Kash Patel says the images show an armed individual appearing to have tampered with the camera at Nancy Guthrie's front door the morning of her disappearance. The Guthrie family says they don't know who this person is, but on Instagram, Savannah Guthrie posted, "Someone out there recognizes this person." Of her mother, she says, "We believe she's still out there. Bring her home." Pleading for the public's help, police hope the doorbell images will lead to a break in the case. The Nest camera was taken, but police say Google software engineers were able to recover these images, even though it reportedly wasn't connected to the cloud.
Between the data getting to the server and the camera, there's stops in between, and there's going to be pieces of that data possibly that could be recovered. And from what it appears here, that's exactly what the FBI did.
The family has gone from hopeful to desperate, pleading for their 84-year-old mother's return.
We are at an hour of desperation. and we need your help.
Ransom notes were sent to media outlets demanding $6 million in cryptocurrency. But as deadlines passed, many question if the notes were even real. The images of a possible suspect is the biggest clue yet in a case that has gripped America. The FBI offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to Nancy Guthrie's recovery. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. Turning now to other news on the call today between Mark Carney and Donald Trump. So far, it hasn't convinced the U.S. president to pull back from his threat yesterday to delay the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge connecting Detroit and Windsor. In fact, Trump officials dug in today. And as CTV senior political correspondent Michael Couture reports, the billionaire American owner of the current bridge connecting the two cities reportedly lobbied officials from the administration just hours before Trump's explosive post online.
Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion.
Prime Minister Mark Carney said he laid out that fact to President Donald Trump in an early morning call that he described as positive. He also cleared up Trump's misconception about the construction and ownership of the span.
See, there's Canadian steel, Canadian workers, but also U.S. steel, U.S. workers that are involved. This is a great example of cooperation between our countries.
Contrary to Trump's claims, the 2017 agreement clearly spells out that the crossing will be publicly owned jointly by Canada and Michigan. Yet Trump's officials insist there are issues.
There's a question as to the proceeds of tolls, etc., and so there's going to be a negotiation on that front.
The agreement states Canada will collect tolls until it recoups the costs related to construction. After that, they're split between Canada and Michigan. One former ambassador says there's a reason the president gets things so wrong.
You've got a bunch of crackpot advisors in the White House who misinform the president, who already likes to have tantrums and lash out.
The New York Times is reporting the owner of the older Ambassador Bridge, Matthew Maroon, lobbied the Trump administration on the same day the president unleashed his tirade about the Gordie Howe span.
The Maroons are the only party that benefits from delaying the bridge. They make a lot more money at the expense of Canadian and American consumers and everyone else.
Ontario's premier believes there's an economic argument for the new bridge, which could spill over into the American midterm elections.
If, the 13 Congress people, 7 of which Republicans, they start getting hammered by their constituents, watch how quickly they flip.
But before that happens, Prime Minister Carney says President Trump asked his ambassador to Canada and Michigan native Pete Hoekstra to continue the conversation and bridge the apparent gap. Omar.
All right, Mike, thanks. The opening of the bridge has already been delayed, and any further setbacks to the timeline could have a significant economic impact. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is in Windsor tonight.
Spanning 2.5 kilometers across the Detroit River, a long-promised economic driver could be forced to take a detour.
We're home to the busiest commercial border crossing between the U.S. and Canada. This is insanity.
While President Donald Trump's political speed bump threatens to derail the planned opening of the commercial corridor, some industry leaders see an opening to accelerate negotiations.
As of a few weeks ago, conversations weren't happening between U.S. and Canada. They were stalled.
Nicole Vlanich, the executive director of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers, says the U.S. president's bluster doesn't surprise her, even though Trump has previously supported the project. This joint statement, released by President Trump and then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in February 2017, says that we look forward to the expeditious completion of the Gordie Howe International Bridge, which will serve as a vital economic link between our two countries.
It's right. I mean, it is vital. I think we need the second bridge. It's been talked about for over 20 years why it's needed.
Political leaders in Windsor and Michigan say they're united by a common goal.
This bridge will open. It's fully constructed.
It is important that it continues to move forward and open up on time.
What would any delay to opening this bridge mean for your industry and the industries here in Windsor, Ontario?
When we think about job growth and job potential on both sides of the border, it would delay that.
The bridge is expected to increase the current $1 billion per day in trade that flows through the Windsor-Essex region, while creating a smoother commercial alternative to the Ambassador Bridge.
There's an issue with one bridge, they can go to the other. It'll stop the traffic delays.
With negotiations now reopened, the hope of many here is that a clearer path will be paid for future economic growth.
Some local business leaders here, as well as politicians, believe the Gordie Howe Bridge is simply being used as leverage by President Donald Trump as he pushes to negotiate a wider America First agenda. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Windsor, Ontario.
And another lingering dispute between Canada and the U.S. could be closer to a resolution. The head of the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration says he expects Canada will announce it is certifying Gulfstream jets later this week. Now, the conflict began last month when President Trump said the U.S. would decertify some Canadian-made Bombardier jets and threatened 50% tariffs on all aircraft made in Canada unless Ottawa certified some American-made Gulfstream planes. A spokesperson for Transport Canada would not comment on the announcement, but says the agency continues to work with Gulfstream and the FAA on the certification of their aircraft. Canada's 3 major airlines have all canceled flights to Cuba as the country deals with a critical fuel shortage. Empty planes are being sent to help bring back thousands of Canadians. Here's CTV's Rahim Ladani on how that major logistical operation is going.
For some Canadians in Cuba, their vacations are being cut short, now waiting to get back home.
A smooth trip down here has turned into a sort of disruptive return.
Steve Chapman flew to Veradero over the weekend and wasn't scheduled to fly back to Ottawa until the end of the month. But WestJet sent him an email overnight saying his flight home has been canceled. WestJet, Air Transat, and Air Canada are all winding down operations to the island country, which is experiencing its worst economic crisis in nearly 70 years. The country is struggling amid a lack of access to Venezuelan crude oil following U.S. action in that country. This has prompted major airlines to fly empty planes with extra fuel to bring travelers back.
That's why this is going to roll over the next, 5-10 days and bring people back as they were normally scheduled to when they left. And the idea of that is it gives people a chance to enjoy their time down there.
At Terminal 3, inside Toronto's Pearson International Airport, some travelers are beginning to arrive from Cuba.
On our resort we didn't, but there was a whole bunch of people's resorts who got shut down due to the oil crisis.
It's not easy for the Cubans, but for the tourists we have no problems whatsoever, to be honest.
Cuba's economy could suffer even further as airlines announce they're halting service until at least the end of April. Those who have flights booked will likely be reimbursed, but not necessarily for all expenses.
What about the non-refundable cost of the airfare, the vacation, the tours, all that? Unfortunately, if cancellation or interruption insurance was not purchased or it can't be purchased as of today, they don't have a lot of holdout for any hope of getting any of their monies back.
Some hotels have been closed and guests relocated as the Cuban government tries to save on resources. Air Canada says that any individual who is still in Cuba right now and would like to come back ahead of their scheduled departure can contact customer service and they'll put them on a flight free of charge if there's space available. Omar.
All right, Rahim, thank you. I want to take you back to our top story right now and to BC Premier David Eby speaking live after a mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC, where we know 10 people are dead, including the suspected shooter and dozens more injured. Let's listen in.
The tragedy that unfolded in Tumbler Ridge this evening over the course of the day. This is a devastating and unimaginable tragedy. We can't imagine what the community is going through, but I know it's causing us all to hug our kids a little bit tighter tonight. I'm just out of an update with RCMP leadership, Dwayne McDonald. I want to thank him for being available this evening, and a conversation with the Prime Minister about this terrible tragedy. Here's the latest information that we have. I understand that there are 10 people in total who are dead, 2 different sites. 8 of the people who died as a result of the shootings were at the school, including an individual we understand is the suspected shooter who is believed to have died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. There are about 25 people who have been triaged by health authorities with various physical injuries, some profoundly serious, and some more minor injuries. Right now, information is very limited as police do their work, and the RCMP has asked for patience as they work through methodically to ensure that they are supporting families and getting to the bottom of what happened today.
A visibly emotional Premier David Eby updating the media on that mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC, where 10 people were killed and 25 people, as he mentioned, were triaged. Just a horrific situation unfolding in northeastern British Columbia at this hour in a small community of about 2,400 people. Coming up.
Here's what you can do using ChatGPT.
Why doctors say you should get a second opinion. Doctors are raising red flags about artificial intelligence and health advice gone wrong. Some patients self-diagnosing with tools like ChatGPT. Here's CTV's John Venevelli-Rao on how often the chatbots get it right.
Here's what you can do using ChatGPT.
Online, there's long been plenty of hype.
ChatGPT is now better than your doctor.
About how AI chatbots can diagnose medical problems. A quick consult that's free and easy.
Honestly, I think it's really good. I would place a lot of trust in the answers it gives me.
But the Canadian Medical Association sounding the alarm, warning consulting an AI for medical advice can be dangerous, especially if a patient delays or skips seeing a human doctor.
I would suggest that they need to be extremely curious and cautious, and that the best is still to see their family physician or primary care provider or specialist.
In a new survey of 5,000 Canadians, around half said they'd consulted with either Google AI or ChatGPT for health information. But the survey also found those following AI health advice were 5 times more likely to report health-related harms compared to those who didn't.
Harms tend to be delay in diagnosis or side effects from the treatment.
I think it's pretty good at some things, but there are some inaccuracies.
Some are concerned patients are turning to AI chatbots because of the shortage of family doctors. In fact, more than half who got information online said they had to because a walk-in clinic or doctor weren't available. But experts say an AI can confidently state something untrue and lacks a full patient history.
AI doesn't know them as a full person in their context, whereas I do as a family doctor. I know that they actually had this other symptom last year that they forgot to mention to AI.
And it turns out many are skeptical of AI responses. Only 1 in 4 in the survey say they trust it to provide accurate health information. John Venevelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead. What's slowing down Canada's housing market and how long it could last. While many are waking up early to catch Olympic action in Italy, some fans and athletes are being forced to stay up late to see the puck drop. CTV's Garrett Barry unpacks the time zone tussle in Milan.
Nearly midnight in Milan, and these fans are hardly winding down, even after a disappointing result to the match that so many were waiting for.
We already realized that we're not going to be getting home till like 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe later after all these Canadian games. And we've been like getting our jet lag systems down, getting our rhythms in place.
We adjusted to the time zone based on the hockey thing. So I'm figuring like sleep late, stay up late, and just go with it.
Canada and the United States, the renewed rivalry tonight, delivered one of the most decisive losses in Canadian Olympic hockey history. And as the Canadian women played without captain and leader Marie-Philippe Poulin in that 5-0 loss, they were also making other adjustments to push through a string of late start times.
Especially my roommates, they're probably going to bed usually a little bit earlier than 11:30, but when you know that you're going to be on the ice till that time, you don't really want your body to get into that rhythm.
Many events in Milan are starting well after dark. It's not unusual for action to begin at 8, 9, even 10 p.m. The IOC says it's a perennial question at all Olympic Games when to start competitions to make sure they can hit TV sets around the world live at the best possible times.
In the end, it works for spreading the message and spreading Olympism and people to enjoy the excitement of the sport around the world. So we would say it's something that is worth doing and worth considering.
Tonight's loss wraps up a run of 3 games in 4 nights for the Canadian women. And twice during that stretch, they didn't get off of the ice until after 11:30. They'll get a day off tomorrow, but are back in action here in Milan on Thursday afternoon.
Omar. Good thing Italy has great coffee. Gareth, thank you. That's a snapshot of this Tuesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast. Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Weeknights at 11. Watch live on Crave.